Hi everyone, my name is Shannon and welcome to King Family Farm and welcome to my seed covered desk. I start the majority of my seeds in my basement and it works really well for me. I grow everything under lights. I don't have a greenhouse at this time. I do have a high tunnel which is unheated, so it helps me push the season, but I can't start seeds out there. So this is where I do it. Today I am starting some micro dwarf tomatoes. They're a bit of an experiment for me this year. I wanted to give them a go. I've kind of seen them around. I think they will be a particularly good item for people who are living in apartments or just don't have a lot of space and you want to try something. These are only supposed to require a gallon pot. So, which I mean is not that big. It doesn't take a lot of space, and that's their final size, is a 1 gallon pot. So I picked up a bunch of seeds from a fairly local seed house. They're out of Quebec. Let me see what we got here. I got a whole mess. There's a whole bunch of seeds here, and I picked all micro dwarf. So there's dwarf tomatoes that still get about 4 feet high and they need like a full-size pot. And then there's these micro dwarf tomatoes. And they're part of the Dwarf Tomato Project, which you can Google. It's kind of interesting. It's a breeding program where different tomato breeders are trying to grow tomatoes that require just significantly less space. A lot of the heirloom tomatoes that I grow, I think I've put most of them away at this point. They require, they can grow 7-8 feet tall if you let them. They get really big and they need a really good trellis and lots of space. And they're very heavy producers. So it's kind of problematic for people who are living in town. They only have a small patio. Maybe you just want to snack on a few things. So these are supposed to be fairly prolific. And again, they're micro dwarf tomatoes. So they get about 18 inches tall at the most, which I think is kind of cool. And I like to grow something every year that's unusual. So this is kind of my patio experiment this year. So these seeds are all from, and I'm going to say this wrong, so I'm sorry, Semence des Artisans from, I'm trying to think. Oh, it's not on the packet. Anyways, they have I'll show you really nice and close. They have a website, lovely. They have oodles of other things. I just specifically went for the micro dwarf tomatoes. And so I'm doing a whole tray of them here. And again, normally for my main season stuff, I try not to mix different seedlings in the same tray. I don't even like mixing varieties of the same seedling, like the same thing, like tomatoes, right? These are all tomatoes because they tend to germinate at different rates. Even a different color of the same variety, like in status, when I germinate status, the yellow status always germinates first, and then the pink, and then the darker colors, but always the yellow, then the pink. And that's just the way it is. And it's a little frustrating when you're putting things on heat and moving it to lights. So I don't normally do this, but I'm also kind of confined for space this time of year. So here we are. So I'm going to get 80 plants on this tray, which is way more than, or not as much as the insane variety of seeds I took. So I've already planted some of them. So this one was called Micro Tom, Orange Hat, Hardin's Miniature, and Aztec are what I've already put in here. And then I also have, I have Baby. I'm just going to separate them. Andrina, Pygmy, Birdie Jaune, Delis de Neuilly. I'm going to say that wrong. I'm sorry. You guys can correct me. It's okay. My husband will. He's French, and my French is unfortunate. Banana Toes, Dwarf Confetti, Purple Heartthrob, and Hans Gelbe. So the Hans Gelbe hams, yes. I just wrote it down here, and I'm actually going to put some seeds in. So I thought I would give these a little experiment this year. These are all open pollinated varieties, so if you do purchase them and you like them and you save the seeds, you will get tomatoes that are very similar to the ones that you planted, as long as you prevent cross-pollination. So these are just a little smaller than a regular tomato seed. I would say that they're even just a shade smaller than a cherry tomato seed, which is fine. Because they are really, they're supposed to be micro dwarf. And again, that's supposed to stop at, no, that's lettuce. That's supposed to stop 3-4 liters. Yeah, they're supposed to be about 18 inches, and that's kind of it. They don't really get much bigger. So I'm using this little foil pan, and I like to dump my seeds out in it. You can see them in there. The reason I like the foil pan is because you don't have the static electricity that you would get if you put it on like a foam tray. So it's easier to get them to come off the pencil and plant them. So now I wanted to kind of have a look at these before I showed them to you, but I thought, well, maybe you guys would just be interested in growing an experiment. So they say they have 10 seeds per packet. I think they were $2.50 or so a packet, so not ridiculously expensive. And most of these packets have 12 seeds. So, and I'm actually going to save the last 2 seeds for next year, because you never know, I might like them. So, and I might not get the chance to prevent cross-pollination and save seeds. That's always the hope, but that doesn't always work out that way for me. So here we are. So that's that one. Oops. And then let's see, what do we got? We got Purple Heartthrob. So I hope everybody's gardens are, their seed starting's coming along. If you're in the south, you guys are probably starting to plant some stuff outside. Purple Heartthrob. If you're far enough south, you'd probably be putting out your brassicas and stuff right now, which is pretty cool. I'm still looking at about 18 inches of snow sitting on top of my outdoor beds. My high tunnel is thawed, but the access to it is a bit difficult right now, and my high tunnel needs a bit of repair before I get going in it this summer or this spring. So unfortunately, I'm not planting in it just quite yet, but probably next week. Whoops. I'll probably get out there next week. So we've just been kind of, puttering around here, doing the things that need to get done. It's mud season, so everything's just really dirty. The eggs are dirty. The chickens are dirty. Everything's dirty. My house is dirty because it just tracks in with the kids. And we haven't quite convinced them to stay on the mat with their boots. We're trying. They're getting there, but they're little. So we'll get there eventually, hopefully. All right. So we went out to my dad's again, and yesterday on Sunday we went out there again, and the sap is running. There's not a whole lot yet. There's probably about 5 gallons, but I figure I would say probably by the end of the week I'm going to start boiling. If I end up with 15 gallons, that's usually when I start. So we have really great weather right now, so for sap. So hopefully we get going soon, because I am down to my last couple pints of syrup, because last year was not a particularly great run. So, and the year before was really fantastic. So fortunately we've kind of had enough to get us through. And we always try and, just get as much as we can, right? And then hope that it lasts us at least the year, if not a little bit longer, which is important to us. So, and then this year I kind of started researching bees. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but we're still researching it because bees are cool. I've lost a seed, I think. All right, I will try again. 2. You can do this with a toothpick. I prefer the pencil. It's easier for me to hold on to. It works really well for me. Of course, you can start these in a 72 cell tray. If that's what you've got, go ahead. If you've got little 3-inch pots, put 4 seeds in a pot and separate them later when they first show their first true leaves. I mean, you don't have to do soil blocks. I like soil blocks. I have a big preference for them. They just don't take up the space, and that for me is one of the biggest issues. So, and then the last thing we're going to get in this tray, see, I'm going to need 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 more varieties after this. I'm going to need another tray. It's terrible. We're going to have tomatoes everywhere. I love tomatoes, though. It's one of my favorite foods. So, I tend not to eat tomatoes in the winter. If you buy them, oh, they're awful. They taste like disappointment. They really do. They're not worth it. They have no flavor. The texture is gross. It's not worth it. Cherry tomatoes aren't terrible. Terrible. They're not great. You could definitely, I'm wondering if one of these would do all right under a small grow light in the house. If they really only need a gallon pot, then you would only need a little bit of growing space for them. And you could have, some cherry tomatoes through the winter. They won't taste as good as ones that are grown in the soil in the summer. There's just something about that tomato. But I can't wait for the first tomato. Every year, that first ripe tomato, I bring it in the house and make myself a tomato sandwich, because it's just the best thing ever. All right, and that was banana toes. So we'll write that down. I'm going to turn this. So basically what I've done in this tray is I've started 10 of each kind. And today, 10, 11, 12. Today is the 13th. All right. So what I've done is I've started 10 of each kind. So the soil block has 20. So I've just gone 5 and 5. And then I've marked it with what it is on each side. So I know what I've got here. And it's really important to label, because I never remember what things are, and all the tomatoes look the same. So I did try and pick tomatoes that had maybe some different color, like the banana toast is going to be yellow, and it's probably going to be like a pear-shaped type tomato. It's the only thing with these seed packets is they don't have pictures, but those seed packets with the pretty pictures on them are really expensive to produce. So if you forget what they look like, you can just go back on their website, and Google knows all those things. So I need to make another tray because I need to be able to, I need 3 more blocks. So I've done a tray of 80 here, and then I've done this 40. This is going to be for the lettuce. 40 heads a week of romaine, plus all the other lettuces that we grow is plenty. So that's, and you don't necessarily harvest them all in one week. The idea is that you do, but you need a bit of wiggle room here. So we'll write these down. So yeah, every year kind of I like to try something new, and I really love tomatoes. They're just, oh, they're so good. So this is kind of my experiment this year. There are things that I'm growing this year that haven't grown in a couple of years because it didn't work out. But this year things are looking good. I think we've hopefully mostly dealt with the health issues I was having. So, which makes me happy. Makes my husband happy too. So, all right. 1. These are not a bad size, actually. These are a little bigger. You can kind of see that on the end of the pencil. So we're kind of hoping to push the season a little bit. See, oh, it did have, this one only had 11 seeds in it. Most of them have had 12. Nope, there is 12. There's 2 in there. So we also, this week we bred our rabbits. So we're hoping to have some mixed meat mutt rabbits available for sale the mid to end of May. And we have to rerun our incubator. That was a fail. So what happened is we set up the incubator, and there's a video prior to this where I show setting up the incubator. And then I went to candle the eggs at 7 days, and not one of them was fertile. 40 eggs. And yeah, the rooster isn't doing his job. So the next day I took every egg out of that coop, which was like 22 eggs, and I cracked every single one of them open, and not one of them had been fertilized. So the rooster made it to the stew pot, and we replaced him with a Rhode Island Red over Blue Azure rooster that I have. So I'm a little disappointed because he doesn't have 2 copies of the blue egg gene like the rooster that we had in, but we kind of need some chicks. So, and then we had some issues with a respiratory issue with them. So we treated the respiratory issue. We've, withheld all the eggs. And we're about to start the incubator again this week. So hopefully next week, or at least in about 10 days, Birdie Jean, I will be able to candle some eggs and show you what we have and what that looks like. Because I started candling that batch of eggs, and I had a video going and everything, started it, and I was going on, I was talking, and I was like, oh, the first one's no good, and oh, the second one, and then I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I did all 40 eggs, and not one of them was fertile. Oh, was I ever upset. But anyways, it's a loss of eggs. I was kind of perturbed because I'd have chicks this week. They should have hatched tomorrow. But anyways, we're going to try again with a different rooster. And that's why it's always good to have more than one. As obnoxious as they can be, they do help you develop your flock, and they're beautiful. They're kind of noisy. I don't really hear them anymore though. I mean, when we first got chickens and the roosters started crowing, I heard them every time they crowed all night long. It was kind of obnoxious. They don't just crow in the morning. They crow all night, all day. It's like that rooster from Robin Hood, the Disney movie, where it's, he's strutting around, and then the sheriff of Nottingham's character is like, it's 1 o'clock and all's well. 1 a.m. though, it was terrible. So, anyways, but I don't really hear them anymore. And my in-laws live next door. They don't hear them. Still, I mean, you have to be listening or sitting outside to hear them that far away. So every once in a while I hear them in the morning, but they don't really bother me. It's kind of funny how, all I wanted was chickens and now I've got them, and you don't notice them quite the same anymore, because now they're just a normal part of our everyday experience. So I've got to start the incubator again this week, and then we're lining up a run to a livestock auction maybe it's the end of April. I have to look at my calendar, because I'm looking for a couple of things that I might consider. My husband will be livid if I come home with a goat, but you never know. And I was just at the local grocery store today, or this weekend. I went yesterday. No, Saturday. I went Saturday afternoon. And our local grocery store had what used to be local butter, which is Sussex. But I think Sussex is produced by Baxter, and I don't think Baxter is local anymore. Like, I think they're owned by a bigger dairy conglomerate. Anyways, out of Quebec or something like that. Anyways, that one only had 10 seeds. No? It's got 12. So the local butter at our local grocery store, this is, it's a chain out of Quebec, but it is our local grocery store. And it was $10.49 for a pound of butter, and I did not buy it. Now, they did have some cheaper butter, which was like the store brand butter, and it was $7. But still, it's butter, man. Butter. So, and I mean, we don't eat margarine. I've never had margarine. It doesn't appeal to me in any way. But margarine's not really any cheaper anymore. And I think lots of people at one time used to purchase margarine because it was cheaper, but it's just not cheaper anymore. So, my husband might get a surprise and maybe we'll come home with a cow. I don't know. He will not be impressed. And we really don't have room for a cow right now, nor are we ready for one, but it's certainly something that's kind of in the back of my mind. And I mean, that kind of leads to a whole conversation of having, like, the plan for this year, and then like a 3-year plan and a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. And it's sitting down, with your partner and or whoever you are, or maybe not doing this experience with, because there's certainly plenty of people who do this alone. But sitting down and making, a plan, a decision, and kind of going, in 3 years, we'd like to have a cow. How does that happen? How do we make that happen? In 3 years, we would like to be producing 90% of what we eat. What does that look like, right? You need to go, so what kind of vegetables do we eat? What kind of quantities do we need to produce? What kind of preservation does that look like? And brainstorming all that. I have notebooks all over the place, and it's really important to me to do that. And I think that's it. I did extra soil blocks I didn't need. So I think it's important to look at that and kind of have an idea of where you want to go, and I think it very much starts with, you need to decide what it is you like to eat and what's feasible and what kind of land you have access to. Because, if you only have half an acre, a cow is probably not, it's not really feasible, as opposed to if you have, 5 acres. And even with 5 acres, you're still going to have to buy in feed. You still can't produce enough hay and stuff for the winter. But that's a whole other conversation, right? You need to think about, where does your feed come from? Can we grow that? So, and that's why chickens are just such a great gateway animal, because even if you haven't moved to the land that you really want, as long as it's kind of legal in your area, even if you're living in town and you can only have 4 hens and no roosters, you can get that experience of poultry care and dealing with the eggs and how many you've got and hatching chicks. And, you get all this learning experience that goes with having livestock, sourcing feed, sourcing bedding. What happens when you can't get it? What do you feed them? Right? And at the end of the day, for us, I mean, if I can't buy feed, I got to call my flock. I can't produce enough for the 100 laying hens that I have. So it would be foolish to think that, we could be completely self-contained. And so then you look at, the idea of being community sufficient as opposed to self-sufficient, because self-sufficiency is a great thing. I think it's important to have skills to bring to the table. But when you're looking to buy a piece of land in an area, particularly if it's an area you don't live near now, you want to buy a piece of land that comes with community, because you're going to need those people. You're going to need someone to help you move the big stuff. What if you don't have a tractor? What if you need to get plowed out and you get this massive dump of snow? How are you going to move all that snow? How are you going to get to the barn in the winter? If you need help, you need to have that community and people around you who are also community minded. So it might be worth going to the area that you think you want to live and take a vacation there. And I'm not talking about spending, a lot of money doing a vacation, particularly right now. I think you should spend that money on building your pantry and having money aside, because things are looking a little sketchy. But if you're going to take a vacation, I think going to an area that you want to live in and taking a vacation there and seeing what the community is like and seeing, what is available there. How far away is it to get your tractor repaired? How far away is it to buy feed? How far away is it to buy hay? How far away is a vet? These are all things that are really important, and are part of the planning stages of building your homestead. Now, we're on a piece of land that my husband's family has had for a very, very long time, at least back through my husband's grandfather. And so, and probably quite a bit earlier than that. So we're kind of in that area, and we just stayed here. And everybody kind of knows us here. But the tractor, to get a Kubota tractor repaired, is 3 miles up the road if I need a part. And, there's a Massey Harris in town, and there's John Deere is in town, and there's Kenworth in town for heavy equipment for trucks, right? Which is actually where my husband works. And, those things are available. Now, here's the thing, though, is if I want feed for my chickens, I go down river 45 minutes to buy chicken feed, because I can't buy chicken feed here. I'm not even sure I can buy grains to mix my own chicken feed. I would still have to bring it in, because everybody in this area grows potatoes. So we're in an area that is known for McCain potatoes. McCain is downriver from us, the original homestead. But everybody here grows potatoes for McCain. That's what they do. So the services and availability of equipment is all based around McCain. So our local Agrimart, when I moved here, I thought it was like a co-op. It was like a farm store. And I went in, turns out it's a fertilizer stop for potatoes. If you're not growing potatoes, they don't really have anything for you. So, which is kind of unfortunate. So I have to go downriver for a co-op, and I have to plan that, and it costs more, and it's fuel. So I have to have enough chickens to make it worthwhile to go buy 1,000 kilograms of feed at a time to make it worthwhile driving my truck downriver. So these are things that you really need to think about when you're planning your homestead. You know, if you're only going to be able to get a hold of 5 acres of land, that's great. And you can do a lot on 5 acres. Like, you really can do a lot. But you need to be realistic with what you can grow on 5 acres. And it's not as much as you think. If you wanted to be truly self-sufficient, I think a 100-acre farm would kind of do it. And even then, you're still not going to be able to grow certain things. I mean, I don't think even on 100 acres you'd be able to have enough livestock and grow enough wheat to make enough flour to make all the bread products that you might consume in a winter. I mean, it's a lot. It really is. And then, of course, you need all the equipment and everything to go with that. So it's just stuff to think about. And I think that it's important things to think about. So I know it's a far cry from starting a few tomatoes, but I think a lot of people, they've certainly moved to this area. They've definitely moved to New Brunswick from Ontario. I am also originally from Southern Ontario, but I've been here about 10 years. And they've moved here, looking for a better life. And I absolutely get that. I think it's wonderful. I would not talk anybody out of this lifestyle, but I would also like people to be very realistic about what's available. So fortunately, we've had a lot of people move into this area who want the same items that I do. And so those things are starting to become a little more available because the demographic is changing. So that's also a bonus of people moving to this lifestyle and wanting to grow their own food and trying to do stuff like this. I mean, I'm just a drop in a bucket with my little farm stand, and I really enjoy it. I love helping people. That's why I make these videos. And I think everybody can grow a bit of food. You may not be able to grow everything, and maybe you just have a little apartment in Fredericton and you've got a patio stone that's, it's 24 inches by 24 inches, and maybe one of these little tomatoes in a 1-gallon pot is all you've got room for. But it's something, and it's food. And I think having the skill to grow food is just so incredibly important, and you can do that without all the land. So that was kind of rambly. I know that was kind of rambly, but it's been on my mind for a while, and I never really know how to present that conversation. So I was thinking about it, and I was starting some seeds, and I thought I would show you what I was doing and maybe have that conversation. So, I mean, if you have any thoughts about it and you want to, further that conversation, please comment down below. When you guys share information about the same subject, people can read those comments and they can learn more, because we all have a different experience. We're all growing in different areas. I mean, even within this province, I'm in zone 3B. My frost dates are mid-May. But I mean, if you live down in Moncton, you're like zone 5A, especially if you're right in town. And you can grow things down there. I can't. And I don't have any experience with them because I can't grow them. So I really appreciate it when people, put comments down below. And if it's a question, I try and address it. If it's a big topic, I might try and make a video of it. But so I need to write down type of tomato I put in. Ooh, these were the ones I wanted to try. Napa Chardonnay. I think we'll do some Napa Chardonnay and then see where we get. I don't know how many seeds are in this packet. 15 seeds, it says. Probably has more than that in it. But I do have 15 spots. I have 30 spots. I can't count today. It's terrible. I don't know what I'm thinking. But anyways, there's my brain is just so much going on, trying hard to keep up with everything. And all right. We sent the kids to school today after March break, and they were excited to go. Mama was excited for them to head off because they were just getting a little underfoot and arguing with each other and squabbling. It's just too close quarters for too long. They did have a lot of fun sledding this week. The weather's been super warm, and so it's great sledding weather, but they need to do it before before we lose the snow, because it's going to go fast. I figure by the end of the week our driveway will be completely clear, which will be nice. So there's probably about 20 seeds in there. I find most companies are pretty good about putting just a little bit extra in their seed packets. Seeds are actually, they're not hand counted from these big seed houses. Nobody's got time to do that. So seeds have a general weight that is assumed per seed, and then the seeds are weighed out. So sometimes your seeds get a little bit shorted, and if you have that problem with the seed house, and I've seen a couple of complaints about that for certain seed houses recently, if you have a problem with that, please email the seed house, because for the most part, I've never had a problem by saying, hey, I ordered this seed packet, it's particularly with an expensive hybrid, and it's supposed to have 50 seeds in it, and it's got, 40. And these were kind of pricey, and I'd kind of like to actually have 50 seeds. And I've never had a seed house not be apologetic and fix the problem. They'll just send you another packet of seeds. But it also lets them know that there's an issue with their calibration, because, they're weighing these seeds out, right? So sometimes there's a calibration issue, and if they know that's an issue, they can fix it. If they don't know it's an issue and you don't complain, they don't know. So it's okay to complain once in a while. I'd be nice about it, but, it's not a perfect system. So we've got, this is like a pink bumblebee. I'm just going to do, because there's only like 1 or 2 seeds in a bunch of these Johnny's packets, and I think I'm just going to mix them together. I've got 10 spots left, and I actually enjoy these for my sales at market, to have a pretty mix, and you don't need a lot of different colors to get a nice mix. So we're just going to call this a bumblebee mix, which is what this is, right? Vessi sells a bumblebee mix. So we'll just, I thought I saw pink bumblebee, purple bumblebee. Huh. Anyways, we'll start with those and get them in here. And we'll just grow a bumblebee mix, and probably all I need is 10 different, that was all there was. There was 4 different seeds in 3 packets. We'll just start those. And then this is a bumblebee mix. It doesn't say, there's probably 20 seeds here, 15, 20 seeds. That's a lot of tomato plants. If you're a home grower, that's a lot of tomato plants. Okay, I'm struggling here. There's 1 seed left in there, and it doesn't want to come out. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 17 seeds, and I pretty much remember these supposed to have 15 seeds in a packet. So usually there's more, not a lot more, but there's a bit more. These are kind of a novelty type thing. So I'm going to try and take a variety of sizes of seed, because that's usually, when you get a mix, that's usually how you tell the difference between the different ones, and that's it. So that fills that up. And if I feel compelled to start another tray, there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's still 12 in there. If I'm going to, if I feel compelled to start another tray of the bumblebee mix. These are just kind of stripy and cool looking. They have great flavor. They just look really nice when you're trying to grow things for market. And I mean, they look great on a salad plate to have something that's not just a plain, boring red cherry tomato. All right, so I'm going to call that the bumblebee mix because that's what it is. So lettuce I succession plant. So these are, does the seed packet say? Usually most lettuces are like 40 to 60 days kind of thing. So, and they'll take a little bit of frost. They don't mind the cooler weather. So now we have 60 or 80-ish frost-free days, but I'm going to put lettuce out before our last frost. And I will do successions based on probably about 2 weeks past our first expected frost in the fall. So what'll happen is our first expected frost, pardon me, is about the 23rd of September. So I will grow probably 3 weeks past that, 2 to 3 weeks. And then from that, I will count back the 60 days required to get a lettuce to maturity. Now, the caveat with that is that as the days get shorter and cooler, you end up with things not developing as quickly. So you kind of need to almost add a week to the length of time it requires for it to come to maturity because you're losing the hours of daylight. It's getting a little colder. The things aren't growing as well. So there's that to think about. But you can absolutely plant romaine lettuce every 2 weeks for, I would say, until the beginning of August here and have a successful crop. So that's, and it depends what you want, right? Because you don't want, if you're growing romaine in a home garden, you don't want 10 heads of romaine ready, right at the beginning of summer, and then you don't have lettuce all summer. So you want to succession plant that. And that's why also people like a lot of leaf lettuce, because you can kind of pick it as you go. But even leaf lettuce, it kind of craps out in the heat. And the other thing that happens is that the plant just kind of loses energy as you're picking leaves off it. So you want to have a succession going where you can just have what you need ready weekly. Are you going to eat 2 heads of romaine a week? Well, plan for 4 or 5. You can always give one away or eat more. And they'll kind of hold a bit for you in the garden. And then you also, of course, expect to lose some and eat a bit of dirt. But you do expect to lose a little bit as you go. And that's also very common. So I always plant a little more than I'm going to need because I expect to lose some of it to just whatever, for whatever reason. So, but that's what you would do. So you would plant, say, a 6-pack, because that's what most people grow in. But if you want to just grow 5 heads a week, so you could plant 5 or 6 seeds every 2 weeks. And then as it goes, you put them out in the garden and let them grow. And then they're not all ready all at once, right? You want to have radishes, but you don't want to have, a 20-foot row of radishes. You want to have a bunch of radishes per week. So you want to plant, 18 inches of radishes every 2 weeks until it gets stinking hot and then they get pithy. They're not the best. Although I find the French breakfast radish does really well in the heat. And that's the one I tend to grow all season. It works well for us. But Easter eggs is kind of cool in the spring. It gets people talking about fresh vegetables again because it's just really pretty on the table. So I tend to like to grow that one. But I also succession plant that. I plant them every couple of weeks with the intent of harvesting weekly. And it doesn't all mature at once. And then you have a steady supply. And you can do that in a home garden. You don't have to, be a commercial grower, to succession plant, you know. And it also allows you to use your space up a lot better. If you only have so much space, then you don't want to plant all your crops at once. You want to plant a couple at a time, and then as soon as your lettuce is out, you plant something else there, right? You use that space for something else. And you just kind of rotate it around that way. And that's how I manage to grow as much as I do in our little quarter acre of actual growing ground, right? That's our productive space is only a quarter acre, and that's enough. It really is. But we don't plant everything to harvest all at once, because then you're overwhelmed and then you don't have anything, right? All right, and that is that. So in 2 weeks, I'll start another tray and of romaine and all my other lettuces. I tend to grow, the other one I grow a lot of is black seeded Simpson, but that one I tend to direct seed, and I sprinkle it in, and I harvest it as a baby leaf. I just chop the top of it right off, usually do 2 or 3 cuts, and then I tear it out and plant something else. And that's how I make that work. That's all I'm starting today anyways. I've got some other household chores to do. I gotta clean my house. The kids have been here for a whole week, and the house just went poof. So we had fun though. It was good. We did lots of things, and the kids are super excited about spring. They keep asking when they get to start their pumpkins, and not yet. I'm not gonna let them start pumpkins until probably the end of May. So they're itching to get into the garden. They've been running around outside. They get super excited about there being babies on the farm, so they're just waiting for the turkeys to hatch out some chicks or some poults. That's what a baby turkey is, a poult. They're also just, the ducks are starting to breed, so they're really excited about that and looking forward to that. So yeah, it's busy time here on the farm, and I hope everybody's plugging away at it and working a little bit and enjoying themselves. This is my favorite time of year, where everything springs to life, and just everything just bursts out of the ground and the buds pop open. It's just fantastic. I love it. So thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you here next time on the farm.